everyone? Welcome to KGW's 3-on-3 Blazers. My name is Orlando Sanchez. Jared Cowley on my right, Nate Hanson on my left. The one and only Max Barr on the ones and twos. Jared, welcome back, man.
Thanks, man. It feels good to be back.
Yeah, you doing all right?
A little better. Yeah, I'm going to start with a little story about how sick I was.
Let's do it.
So I came back to work on Sunday, but I wasn't quite, I wasn't even close to 100%. And I drove into work. I live in Sherwood, so it's a little bit of a commute. I got here. I started working. I was here for a couple hours, and our photo guy, Nick, comes in, and he's like, "Is your car running?"
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, "I don't think so." So I started checking my pockets. I don't feel my keys. I'm like, I should probably go ahead and check. Thankfully, I'm in, the gated parking lot. But I go out there, and my car's been running with the keys in it for 2 hours. Now, I'm not that much of a flake. I mean, that's not the way I roll. That's just how foggy sick I was, that I somehow got out of the car, didn't take the keys out, didn't turn the car off, and came into worked for 2 hours, had no idea. So that's how sick I was.
You got through it, man.
Yeah, I worked it out, but man.
Despite this story with seemingly credible evidence, I still think he missed last week's podcast to avoid Rip It humiliation. That O for donut he threw up there.
Man, your two Rip It championships in a row have gone right to your head.
Yeah. Hey,
you got all these new fans on Twitter.
When you're great, you're great.
That's
Jared.
true.
You can't.
I can't compete, man.
Yeah.
I walked into
I thought about retiring.
I think Nate's trying to have a spin-off. He's working with management right now to get his own Blazers one-on-one.
What are you talking about management? I'm working with you.
You're going to force me out.
Yeah.
The spin-off is just the three of us, and not Jared.
So, guys,
sad.
it's been an eventful week. Jared, not the only one under the weather, so to speak. CJ McCollum, scary moment with him. What initially ran through your guys' minds when you saw that play unravel?
The season may be over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when he laid down there on the floor and was obviously in a lot of pain and needed help from his teammates to leave the floor, my gut feeling was their season could be over.
Yeah.
Because if it was something, they're lucky that based on how he was acting, that it wasn't worse. Because if it was worse and they ruled him out, a couple months, the Blazers have no shot in the playoffs. Like, their season is done. And so that was my thought initially, and luckily that wasn't the case, and we'll see how it is.
What'd you
think? When you see a player go down like that and have that kind of look of pain on his face, holding his leg in that way, you automatically think it's the worst case scenario because you've seen it so often before. And I really thought that this was going to be something that would keep him out the rest of the season, the playoffs, and even the beginning of next season. Thank goodness it wasn't. Thank goodness it was something less serious. Not just for this season, but also for him going forward.
His career, even.
Right, and just his well-being as a person. And so I was really glad to see, what the actual finding was from the MRI, but I thought it was the worst when it happened.
Yeah, you see freakish falls like that where your knee or ankle wobbles or goes in a direction that's not intended to go. Automatically you think the worst.
Yeah.
And I was like you, Nate. I said, so this is how it ends, huh, for the Blazers?
Well, remember I texted you immediately, being like, "This could be done. This could be it."
Well, there's three of us. There's three questions, so we've got three answers. You can check them out on KGW.com. Question number one has to do with the subject that we're talking about. CJ McCollum, he'll miss at least the next 2 games, but likely more. Can the Blazers weather his absence during the rest of the regular season? And what if his injury keeps him out of playoff games? Who needs to step up to fill the void?
So I told you, I believe both of you and Jared this before, that, going into the playoffs, there are about 4 situations that could have ended the Blazers' postseason hopes before they even made it to the postseason. 3 of them involved injuries to their big 3, and they just had one of them happen. We'll see how CJ recovers. And the other was that they struggle down the stretch and fall to a seed, which now could be 7 or 8, given how close Denver is to Golden State.
It's so close.
That they end up playing Golden State in the first round, because the Blazers have no shot. No one really has a shot against the Warriors.
Yep.
And so they've had one of these situations happen. Now I think the goal for them moving forward is just to try to stay afloat and avoid a bad stretch here at the end of the season, so they don't fall to that 7 or 8 seed. And they don't have a lot of room to work with. They're only 2 games up on the Clippers and Jazz, who are currently the 7 and 8 seeds in the West. but I think they can. I think they have enough talent on this roster to weather the storm. The schedule is also favorable for them.
Yes.
They play a lot of bad teams here down the stretch. And so I think they have enough guys. We saw it against Indiana. I don't think it's just one person who can step up to fill this void. I think it has to be a combined collaborative team effort. And against Indiana even, it wasn't just that like two guys were hot the entire game. It was one guy was hot in the second quarter, Rodney Hood. Al-Farouq Aminu got hot in the third quarter. Seth Curry was hot late. You know, you just need guys to step in here and there. And the Blazers do have enough talent, I think, to weather the storm, stay in that 3 to 6 seed conversation, in which they'll have a chance to win a first-round playoff series if CJ is able to return by then, and that's what they have to do.
Do you still think they're a playoff lock?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Sacramento is the 9th seed, and they're way far back.
Yeah,
So,
they're
a
2
playoff
games under
lock.
500.
Yeah, they're a playoff lock. The keeping above the 7 or 8 line, because like I said, Golden State may fall to the 2 seed by the end of the season. So they got to keep above that 7-8 line, otherwise to avoid a matchup with Golden State.
How about you, man?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a lot of debate here. I feel the same as you. I think that their schedule is easy enough down the stretch. 7 of their remaining games are against teams that are under 500. They should be able to. I still think they're going to win 50 games. And if they win a couple games that against good teams, they could win more than 50. I think that you're going to get a reasonable facsimile of what you get from McCollum from the combination of Rodney Hood and Seth Curry. I don't think you can fill the void. I don't think you're going to have the same kind of gravity that C.J. McCollum creates from opposing defenses. But I do think they have enough talent to get through the regular season. But like you said before we even asked this question, I agree with you. I'm about 50-50 right now if C.J. comes back on them advancing out of the first round of the playoffs. And it all depends on matchups and whether they have home court advantage. If they don't have C.J., I mean, you just have to be realistic about it. You take away any team's one of their top 3 players, and it's going to be very hard for them to advance against such a competitive, talented Western Conference playoff, group. And there are no easy games once the playoffs start. There are no easy opponents. All these teams are really, really good.
Yep.
And so if they don't have CJ, and I hope he comes back, and I hope he's healthy, but I also don't want him to come back until he's fully healthy. I don't want a repeat of what we've seen with Maurice Harkless. If he doesn't come back, then I think that we're looking at another first-round exit.
And one thing we have to consider, too, is we're talking about, if he comes back for the postseason, that he'll just be 100% CJ, the CJ
Right.
we're used to.
Yes, that's a very good point. He might not be.
The part of what's hard about this is CJ's talked about, there's not a lot of information out there about this injury because it's not a common injury. And so even he, and at least what team doctors are letting out publicly, they seem to be kind of unsure of how serious and bad this could be for him. But say he does miss the rest of the regular season and focuses on getting back for the postseason, it might be a different C.J. McCollum than we're accustomed to seeing, which would also be problematic for Portland.
Yeah, it's not every day you get a muscle strain behind your knee.
No.
So, yeah, I think you need to think about maybe this is an 80% C.J. versus 100% C.J. when the playoffs roll around. And kind of to triple down on what you guys are saying, the schedule is favorable, as you mentioned, with half or more than half being against teams below 500. And typically they've been good against bad teams, and maybe they still won. And, some of the better teams against the Eastern Conference are at home. They play better at home. All of these little things will help them out in a position to stay afloat.
Yeah.
And I guess my question for you guys now is that, let's say they do win those 6 or 7 games and they get to 50 wins. What do you guys think 50 wins get you?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
it's
honestly,
so crazy
because the West is just packed so tight right now. I have no idea. I mean, I think Houston's going to keep winning. I think that really the only team that's from 3 to 8 right now that I don't think is going to keep winning at the level that everyone else is OKC. They're really struggling right now. I could see them being the one that slips to the 8. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's how weird the West is right now. So I have no idea what 50 wins is going to get you.
I'm going to be a little bit different. I think 50 wins would get you one of those 3 to 6 or probably 4 to 6 seed range, because the Jazz and Clippers are at 41 and 30 right now, or something similar to that, 41 and 29. So that means they would have to go on a really strong end of the final 12, 11 games of the season to get to 50 wins in order to get into that group. So I think if Portland finishes 7 and 5, which is what it would take to get to 50 wins, then I think they would accomplish what we said they need to do: stay in that 4 to 6 seed range and give yourself a chance against an opponent you could potentially beat.
Just like CJ's injury, it all could be worse. And the way that the schedule is set up for them, this isn't too bad.
No, but
and I'm with you on just, look, it's time for bench guys, it's time for role players to step up.
Yeah.
There's certain guys that they brought here for this moment to alleviate the pressure that comes along with Damian Lillard and the pressure that Dame is going to be under, double, triple teams, to get the ball out of his hands. Other guys have to score. Other guys need to defend. They need to spread this floor. They need to help him, and this is their opportunity to do it.
And quickly before we move on to the next one, while I think they'll stay afloat, I think there will be games during this stretch where they have a really difficult time scoring for stretches, just because, and we saw it at the beginning of the game against the Pacers. If they didn't get hot with the 3-ball against Indiana, there was no offense outside of Damian Lillard and Yusuf Nurkic, and I think they're going to have stretches like that. It's going to be frustrating to watch at times without C.J. McCollum, but I think in the end, like I said, they'll just have enough.
They're going to have to grind out these wins.
They are.
They're not going to be pretty. And so one of those people that could help them out, question number 2, is Zach Collins. Only bench player with a positive plus-minus since the All-Star break. He's playing more recently with his minutes per game up to 18.4 over the past 5 games after averaging just 5.3 in the previous 8. What do you make of Collins' importance to the Blazers the rest of the regular season and into the playoffs, Jared?
So I wrote about this you can find the article on KGW.com about Zach Collins, and especially his connection with Enes Kanter and how that has become a very effective, impactful duo for the Blazers. So you can go read that, but I'll break down kind of what the main data point was from that article. Enes Kanter and Zach Collins have played 78 minutes together since Kanter joined the team, basically since the All-Star break. And in those 78 minutes, the Blazers are outscoring teams by 18 points per 100 possessions. In the past 5 games is when most of those minutes have accrued, because that's when Collins has been put back into the rotation. During those 51 minutes that they've shared the court, the past 5 games, Portland has outscored teams by 28 points per 100 possessions. Both of those are very good numbers. What I didn't put in the article, and what I think makes this even more striking, is how bad Kanter has been in other 2-man lineups.
Yeah.
His lineup data is really, really bad if you look at it. If you look at the Blazers' net rating, and remember, net rating is the amount of points the team scores per 100 possessions when you are on the court. In this instance, it's when Kanter is on the court with another player. So the net rating when Kanter is paired with every other member of the Blazers' rotation. When he's paired with Aminu, negative 30.8.
Oh.
When he's paired with McCollum, negative 14.4. When he's paired with Evan Turner, negative 13.4. When he's paired with Rodney Hood, negative 12.6. When he's paired with Jake Layman, negative 11.1. When he's paired with Damian Lillard, negative 8.8. When he's paired with Seth Curry, negative 7.3. To his credit, when he's paired with Maurice Harkless, plus 17.4. So only one other rotation player does Kanter have a positive net rating when he shares the court with them. For some reason, that duo, his connection there with Zach Collins, is a lot like what we saw last year with Zach Collins and Ed Davis, except for it's almost the reverse, because Collins is the one who's coming in and fixing the defense for Kanter, because Kanter is a terrible defender. We've talked about this. But when you have Zach Collins out there, who has the best defensive rating on the team since the All-Star break, when you have him out there to clean up all those messes that Kanter creates, it allows Kanter to then shine in the areas that the Blazers went and got him for. He's a great scorer. He's a great rebounder. The Blazers can use that, and having Collins out on the court with him kind of ameliorates the defensive woes that you get with Kanter. And I think that's really the only way that Kanter can be a positive factor in the playoffs for the Blazers and the rest of the season, is if you can kind of tamp down the bad of his defense so that you get the good from what he can provide. And so, in my mind, this is a small sample size. If it can continue, and if this is real, then Collins value to the team right now is enormous.
Yeah.
Because it not only is he helping the team with his defense, but he's unlocking the best potential canter the Blazers can get.
I think for me it comes down to, with this duo of Collins and Cantor, it comes down to the Blazers just kind of always need a rim protector out there on the floor.
Yeah.
When Yusuf Nurkic is out there, he takes care of that offensively and defensively. He is the rim protector. When he's out of the game and you have Cantor out there as the lone big man,
Right, it's free for all.
Yeah, teams attack Cantor, and they often with success. We saw it in that overtime loss against Oklahoma City. They just kept putting him in pick and roll and going at him. But with Zach Collins in the mix, you have a rim protector.
Right.
And Zach Collins, at least for the time being, has alleviated the foul troubles he had earlier in the season. And he's been a really good defender, as Jared said, since the All-Star break for Portland. So I think it comes back to that, is you need Portland needs a rim protector defensively. And Zach Collins has been that in 2 of the last 3 games, especially with New Orleans and Indiana. New Orleans, he had 4 blocks. Indiana, he had a couple blocks. But as Jared said, it plays to both players' current strengths. Zach Collins is not a great offensive player, probably not even an average offensive player at this point in his career. But what he does do when he's not fouling is he has been a good defensive player, and we've seen that. And as Jared said, it allows Enes Kanter to play to his strengths, which is scoring down low and rebounding. Now, you wish you could get both of those things in one player, but Yusuf Nurkic's don't grow on trees everywhere. And so right now, in this limited sample size, it has worked for Portland. I'm sure Stotts, over these last 12 games, is really going to test that out to see if it's an option for them in the postseason, because as Jared said, it could be really important for the Blazers in the playoffs.
Yeah, especially if you're without C.J. McCollum.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to need points wherever you can get it.
And Enes Kanter can give them to you.
Yes.
The only thing I'll add to this with Zach Collins is that he has the ability to come off the bench and give them a boost that very few other players can do. I've seen Jake Layman do it before, where it just creates this spark that gets everyone going. And Zach Collins can turn the game around with one block.
Yeah.
His energy that he brings, we've talked about his instincts in the past, his ability to just be in the right place at the right time, and to your point, this dude is a rim protector. This is what he does.
Yeah.
So I don't think the majority of Rip City has given up on Zach.
No.
I think most believe in this guy, and there are just moments that he can change a game, and they're going to call on him, especially with the data that you've pointed out, which I think is just really interesting. And you know that Stotts is going to test that out.
He's also, it's obvious he's going to do it in certain matchups, because Collins, I don't believe, played in the game against San Antonio, despite playing so well against New Orleans. So obviously it's going to be matchup-wise, maybe a guard-heavy team like we saw with Indiana and New Orleans that attacks Cantor. Spurs played a little bit bigger and didn't quite attack in the same way. So maybe that's something. It's obvious Stotts is looking for matchups as well to put that lineup against, because there's a reason he didn't play Zach Collins against San Antonio.
You made a really good point, too, about Zach Collins' fouls, and that was a problem earlier in the season, and it hasn't been the past few games, but we have to keep an eye on that.
College.
Yeah, you have to see if he can stay out of foul trouble, because if he can't, then his potential impact is diminished considerably.
Right, doesn't matter, because he can't be out there.
Right.
All right, it's prediction time, guys. So we picked Portland to beat Dallas tonight.
Yes.
Blazers play 3 more games between now and the next time that we meet. Saturday versus the Pistons, Monday versus the Nets, and Wednesday at the Bulls. Which games do the Blazers win? Which games do the Blazers lose?
So we probably should have mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast. The reason we're doing this on Wednesday is because Orlando is going to be out of town.
Yeah, I'll be on the road
to cover the Oregon Ducks, the Surging Ducks, in the NCAA tournament down there in San Jose against Wisconsin.
They looked dead in the water a month ago. They won 8 straight, and
here they
punched
go.
a ticket.
And now they're a favorite to beat Wisconsin, apparently.
Seems
funny
like
how it goes.
Seems like a good reason to push the podcast.
Yeah, so I appreciate it.
So that's why we've already picked the game tonight against Dallas,
right.
as we made those picks last week, and we all picked Portland to beat Dallas.
Do any of you feel differently a week later about the Dallas game?
No.
Nah, just don't mess this up, Blazers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
And so let's move on to the upcoming 3, which is, as Orlando said, Saturday at home against Detroit, Monday at home against the Nets, and then Wednesday on the road against the Bulls. I have Portland going 2-1 during this stretch of 3 games. I think they're going to slip up one of these home games. And I'm going to guess it's the Pistons one on Saturday. Blake Griffin has given the Blazers trouble in the past. And players with his skill set, a big man who can handle the ball and also shoot from outside. Like the big man who handles the ball, DeMarcus Cousins comes to mind. He's always given the Blazers problems recently.
Anthony Davis.
And Blake Griffin's not as good as those two were at their peak, but he's still an all-star level talent. And I think Portland, one of these games, they're not going to be hitting the shots like we saw against Indiana. And offensively, they're not going to be there. And I think it's going to be Saturday. And I think the Pistons behind Blake Griffin will have enough. I know the Pistons, while their win-loss seems a lot better recently, they're mostly beating bad teams, and they're not a good road team. But like I said, I have a feeling it's going to be one of these games, so I'm going to take the best player on the opposing team of those two games, and so it's Blake Griffin. So I think they're going to lose to the Pistons, and then I have them bouncing back against the Nets at the end of the homestand, and the Bulls I still don't feel like are worth talking about. They'll go and beat Chicago.
I can't remember the last time I picked the Blazers to lose. It's going to continue this week.
Oh, no.
I have them going 3-0 again.
Oh, gosh.
I don't feel like I'm stretching with any of these like I have the past few weeks. The Pistons, your point is good. They're a nice story. I like what the Pistons have done. On January 29th, they were 21-28. Yeah. Since then, they're 15-6. But during that stretch, they're only 5-5 on the road, and they've lost 3 road games in a row to the Nets, Heat, and Cavs by a combined 69 points.
They're due, baby.
They're not due. So I'm going to pick the Blazers to get that win in the Moda Center. The Nets are 4 games into their own grueling 7-game road trip right now, and they're 1-3 so far on that road trip. So
nice
I'm going
win
to
over the Kings, man.
Yeah, it was. It was an impressive comeback. But I think they're going to be tired, so I'm going to give the Blazers a win in the Moda Center against the Nets. And the Bulls are just not a competitive NBA team right now, so give them a win.
I thought I was going out on a limb here. I thought I could make up some ground or gamble a little bit.
Yeah.
So I went 3-0 as well.
Oh, gosh.
I was thinking like Nate, like they're in my heart, I feel like they're going to lose one of those 2 games.
Yeah.
Just based on an off night, just something weird is going to happen. But to your point, I look at the Pistons' resume, and I know they've won 7 out of their last 10, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't see it. Yeah. And so I'm gonna bank on the Blazers pulling it together and getting 3 wins. And
I don't like this type of Orlando.
Yeah.
Where's last week,
Yeah.
Orlando? I want that guy back.
It's because I'm back.
Yeah, it's more based on just their opponents and the default of I'm not convinced.
So you're picking 3-0 also.
Mm-hmm. 3-0.
So we both, by the way, picked up a game on Jared
did.
last week because Jared picked.
I foolishly picked the Spurs game when I should have predicted CJ would get hurt.
And I'm predicting.
So that's why.
No, Jared yesterday. He told me yesterday he talked about the officiating in the Spurs game and said that may be the most upset he's been with officiating in a Blazers game yet this season, which I was surprised because I didn't remember any calls standing out.
I purposely stayed off Twitter after that game because I don't like complaining about the officiating. But yeah, it irked me.
Yeah.
It may have been because I had picked the Spurs to win and I didn't want to lose a game to you guys. But
Yeah. Well, you blew it last year. You're well on your way to doing it again.
And you're right. You said earlier that I was going to pick them to win like 90% of the rest of their games.
Yeah.
I think I'm like picking even higher than 90% right now.
Man.
So we'll see what happens.
All right.
Guys, it's that time.
My favorite
gosh,
time.
I have to relinquish story time back over to him. I thought mine was really good.
And yours was really good. It was great story time.
It was pretty good.
Guys, buckle in tonight, or today's story time is going to be a little bit long.
Uh-oh.
But I think I'm due because I didn't get to have story time last week.
Oh, he's making up.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, first, the host of Rip It, as all of you loyal fans know, is Max Barr.
Ooh.
He's the real MVP of this
He's
podcast.
the Klay Thompson. Which
He is, twice.
Twice the Klay Thompson.
I usually compare Max to some former NBA player at this time, but I don't really want to do that today. That's because the player featured in today's story time, he's awesome. I really like the guy, but he's not a role model, and he's admitted as much on multiple occasions. He has pretty much nothing in common with Max other than prodigious basketball talent. But it is a very good story. Guys, it's time for story time.
Uh-oh. Who are we talking about?
No connection to Max Barr this time. Today's story time is about Charles Barkley.
Oh. Wait, there's one other connection between Max and Charles.
Oh, what is it?
They both believe the Blazers are getting to the finals.
I don't believe that for a second. So prior to the 1984 NBA draft, Barkley was told by his agent that if the 76ers picked him, he would make just $75,000 in his rookie season. This was before you had mandated rookie contracts that were, in the CBA. Chuck wanted to earn more than that, and his agent told him that if the 76ers drafted him, they also wanted him to come in under 285 pounds. He had brought his playing weight down from 300 pounds in college to 283 right before the draft. But now he had this information in his back pocket about what the 76ers wanted, and he didn't want to go to the 76ers. So what does he do with 48 hours left until the draft? This is what Barkley said, and I wish I was Kenan Thompson so I could do Barkley's voice, but I'm not, and I can't, so I won't. But Barkley said, we went to Denny's, and I had like 2 Grand Slam breakfasts. We went to lunch, and I had like 2 big barbecue sandwiches. That night, we went to a big steakhouse. The next morning, I had 2 more Grand Slam breakfasts, and when we flew to Philly, I weighed 302.
That's amazing.
So he gained, according to his telling of the story, 19 pounds in 2 days.
Yeah.
That's not healthy.
No, I don't think that's also
It didn't
possible.
even matter. Philly drafted him anyway, and it all worked out. Fans loved him. He was an all-star. The NBA even loved him. Featured him in one of their 80s highlights videos that I used to watch during a 6th grade elective class. It was called Current Events in Sports. Best class I've ever had in my life. The song selected for Barkley's video segment was The Warrior by Scandal. I don't know if you guys
I don't know that song.
I'll never forget it. The song for the Michael Jordan segment was Take My Breath Away by Berlin, which was always weird to me. And Larry Bird's song was Small Town by John Cougar Mellencamp.
Oh.
Anyway, I know you guys like to make fun of me for these super long storytime segments.
You're definitely
like
getting
I
made
said,
fun of after this podcast.
I didn't get to do it last week, and if it's a good story, I don't even think it matters. But fellas, it is now time for Rip It. Take it away, Max.
Max,
Wow.
do you think you could gain 19 pounds in
I don't.
a week?
Oh, man.
Much less 2 days.
I don't
a
think
week?
I don't think I can make that happen.
Yeah.
Well, the song Warrior does exist on my Spotify
Oh,
here.
Does it?
It's a real
We'll have
thing.
to play it
So
afterwards.
he's not not making up music tracks here.
Oh, no.
no. By Scandal. All right. We'll have it after the podcast. We'll listen to that. As you were.
Jared, it's great to have you back.
Thanks, man.
Yes.
Guys, before we get to this week's Rip It, I want to remind our incredible listeners, you can subscribe to 3 on 3 Blazers wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening to the show on iTunes, please rate us 5 stars
Obviously.
and leave us a review.
Yes, please.
And if you leave us a review, we may shout you out on the podcast.
Except for you haters.
If you give us 4 stars, please say it was because of Jared.
Oh, man. Because of story time?
Yes.
And now,
Ooh.
it's great to be back with another week of Rip It. Nate's streak is alive.
And it continues because we don't have another champion, correct?
Yeah, I can't crown a new champion this
Oh,
week
another week, baby.
3 weeks in a row.
because we're recording a day early, as you guys talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Two of last week's questions are still in the balance.
Okay.
I can, however,
No.
tell you where things stand
No.
prior to tonight's game.
Yes.
So will we crown 2 champions next week?
Yeah.
Or
Wow.
the same person
How about
for
that?
3rd and 4th consecutive championship.
So let's do a quick partial recap
Yes.
here.
Yes.
here
It's
we
all
go.
gone to your head.
Going back to Blazers at Pelicans, the first question was which former Kentucky Wildcat will grab the most rebounds?
Oh, I think Jared.
Julius Randle, Ennis Cantor, or Anthony Davis?
Davis
Jared, you went with
Or-
Randle. Orlando and Nate, you went with AD.
Yeah, that's too
ouch.
much.
Anthony
That's a-
Davis needed some rest. He did not play in the game.
What a bum.
And Julius Randle, in addition to his 45 points or something, grabbed 11 rebounds,
He's
And
pretty
it's
good.
Cantor?
which won it for Jared because Cantor grabbed 8.
Oh.
Still pretty good.
So pretty close.
This.
So Jared
the
takes
worst.
that one. The Spurs game.
Man, you can always rally. You can be like the Pistons.
The question
There we
for
go.
the Spurs game was which total will be greater from these former Pac-12 stars? Total assists from Derek White, total rebounds by Jakob Poeltl, or total assists by DeMar DeRozan? Nate, you picked assists for Derek White.
Correct.
Jared and Orlando picked assists from DeRozan. DeRozan with 3 assists in the game.
Not great.
Derek White, 3 assists in the game.
Tied.
And Jakob Poeltl, 6 rebounds.
Oh,
Poeltl
and
with
one
the win.
C.J. McCollum. unfortunately.
Nobody got that one.
Jared's
Pacers
still
game.
ahead.
The question was about scoring from former ACC players Thaddeus Young, Seth Curry, and Al-Farouq Aminu. Jared picked Aminu to score the most points.
those threes.
He's going to win. This
Orlando
is annoying.
picked Seth Curry, and Nate, you went with Thad Young.
Did he even score?
Curry?
He scored
Yeah.
2 points.
Thad Young?
Thad Young did.
Okay.
Seth Curry
Wow.
with 11, Aminu 16.
Oh my gosh, this is garbage.
So right now,
man.
Jared with a commanding 2-0-0 lead.
With 2 more questions next week.
That's right, but it's not over.
Not
Yeah.
over at all.
Jared
Ja-
imposing his will on his
Dude,
return.
you know what's going to happen is he's going to do it in true Jared fashion. He's going to blow it at the end. It's one of us are going to come and tie this thing.
Wow.
And how the trash talk has turned.
Oh,
Here we go.
The shade.
Well, we'll find out about that one next week. But let's get to this week's new game of Rip It. Here we go. Blazers versus Pistons. The question is, which Piston will make the most three-pointers in the game? Is it Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin, or Luke Kennard? And all these guys are exactly 2.2 threes per game in March.
Oh, in March.
So, Orlando, what do you think?
I'll go Jackson.
All right. Jared
I'll go Blake.
and Nate?
I'll also go Blake because I talked about him for a full minute.
Yep.
Yeah.
You
It
did.
was because you talked about him. That's what
There we go.
prompted me to pick Griffin.
Next question, Blazers versus Nets. Which point guard will dish out more assists? Damian Lillard or D'Angelo Russell? Jared?
I'm going to go with Lillard. He's really upped his assist game.
He has. Orlando?
Lillard.
Nate?
I'll make it a clean sweep.
Okay.
Last week I went different to try to differentiate. It didn't work out with the 0 I've got so far.
All right. Next question, same game. Which bench player will come up big and score the most points? Seth Curry, Brooklyn's Damari Carroll, or Enes Kanter? We'll start with you, Orlando.
We'll go 2 weeks in a row. We'll take Curry.
All right, Nate?
I'm going to go with Cantor. He and Nurkic dominated the Nets last time. So
That's
I'll go
true.
with him.
That's true. Jared?
I'm going with Cantor for the same reason.
All right. Blazers at Bulls. Which player will block the most shots? Zach Collins,
Uh-oh.
1.2 blocks in March per game. Maurice Harkless.
Uh-oh. Was he going to kick it?
We're talking
his foot?
hands-only blocks.
Hands only blocks?
Hands only.
That was great.
That was the best.
Orlando, nothing to say about that?
It almost deserves its own segment,
okay.
to be honest.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I'm trying not to derail it.
Or, so Zach Collins, Maurice Harkless, or Bulls center and former Blazer,
Rolo.
Robin Lopez. So what do you think, Nate?
Oh, man. I'm going to go with Collins. So I think he's going to get some minutes in that game. So I'm going to go Collins.
All right. Jared?
I will go with Harkless.
All right. Orlando?
Rolo, man. Roll with Robin.
I'll be different. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go
All right.
Rolo.
All
You
right.
weren't around for Rolo, were you?
No, man. I did get a chance to meet him and talk to him in the locker room. I think it was last season, and he's great.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He's getting a lot of minutes right now for the Bulls.
He was a fan favorite, man.
Yep.
Like an actual fan.
Still
favorite.
is, man. I put out like a 30-second interview with him, and it got like 100 retweets, and
Yeah.
I mean, just Rip City still loves that guy.
He's great. Yeah.
Yep.
And now the wild card question of the week.
Where Nate wins it. And Jared blows
On Friday, Orlando, you're going to be in San Jose watching my Oregon Ducks take on Wisconsin in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
it. Your Oregon Ducks.
That's right.
Love it. Love the way you
Do
own
you
that.
refer to the Ducks as we?
No.
Do
Okay,
you
good.
refer to them as the Oregon Ducks?
Yes.
Oh.
Love it.
The over-under for that game is 117 points. That's the combined team totals. 117. That's not a lot of points.
No.
So the question is, which total will be greater? Points scored in the second half by the Ducks, or points scored by Damian Lillard against the Brooklyn Nets?
Ooh. Oh.
Wow.
Second half points from the Ducks, or Lillard points against the Nets? What do you think, Jared?
Ducks.
All right. Orlando.
Oh, that game's going to be A lot of
It's going to
defense
be a
in that.
grinder.
I'm surprised
Yes.
they even have 117. That seems
Yeah,
high for
that
the
is
over-under
kinda
for that
high.
game.
It's as of Wednesday. That's the over/under.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good question. I'll switch it up. Let's Lillard gets hot. Let's go Lillard. This
All
game's
right.
close.
Nate?
He's got to play.
I did not pick the Ducks in my bracket, so I will go with Damian Lillard.
Okay.
Your face did not look happy when I said
Yeah,
that.
just
Ducks.
sheer disappointment
Yeah.
in your tone.
Yeah.
When you asked before if he referred to the Ducks as the, I thought you were talking about like if he addresses the Ducks, like we ask the Ducks to win.
The Ducks.
Before we wrap up the podcast, I just want to let anybody know, if you have any ideas for a Rip It question, please hit me up on Twitter
Love
at MaxNBar. And guys, let people know where they can find you on Twitter. Jared, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Jared Cowley at twitter.com or twitter.com/Jared Cowley.
All right. Orlando, what's your handle?
Orlando KGW.
All right. And Nate?
And nhands_KGW.
All
There
right.
you go.
That wraps up another week of Rip It, guys.
Love it.
Man,
He's got a 2-0 lead.
dude, I don't feel good. I don't like this.
Yeah.
Couldn't he have been gone another week?
I know.
Come on
So
now.
rude.
He's
gonna
shook no more.
Yeah,
He's back.
gonna see.
He's back.
He came
I'm
back
back
with
on
a
track, man.
vengeance, man. He was like Bruce Willis in Die Hard 3.
We'll see. It's not an it's
Or
not
any
an
of the Die Hard.
insurmountable lead.
I'm glad your car didn't run out of gas either, man.
They're making a Die Hard board game. I was told
Oh
yesterday.
my, really?
Wow. On that note, let's
Yeah.
bring it
Also,
home.
check out the Stranger Things 3 trailer. Finally.
What, Jared, just you got anything else you want to hear? Any other random things?
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time.